Are you ready to unleash your full potential and become unstoppable in your success and leadership?
Welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast, where we provide powerful insights and strategies for coaches, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs. I'm Alexanne Carter.
And I'm Carol Register, and we're certified master neurocoaches who are passionate about helping you overcome your limiting beliefs and optimize your performance.
Each week, we'll be sharing actionable tips and strategies using neuroscience, from interviews with industry experts to solo episodes, to help you lead a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms.
Join our community of like-minded individuals. Hit subscribe now, and let's be unleashed and unstoppable together.
Hey, leader, welcome back to another episode of the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast. I'm so excited to have with us today Jen Broyles with us to dive into breathwork. Jen and I have been friends for quite a long time, and I actually had the honor to be one of her mentors in the leadership space. You guys often hear me about being in the leadership room, and Jen just happens to be one of those another amazing leaders that I'm bringing to you, who I've got to know in the leadership space, and I've got to witness firsthand her transformation as a leader. And what's so cool about being a mentor and being a coach in this leadership space is that you as a coach and a mentor also get to experience something. Like, you get to learn things. And, so I've got to experience a lot of breakthroughs just by being with Jen on her journey. And one of the biggest, coolest thing ever that I got to experience several months ago was breathwork. So Jen is a somatic breathwork specialist coach. I mean, I know you're going to tell us a little bit more like how you define that. But it was the one thing that I was like, oh my goodness, I want to learn more about this is breath work. I feel like I kind of had this assumption of what breath work was, like I did meditation and all these things, but oh my goodness, like, listener, I gotta tell you, like, my body was tingling. I'd never experienced anything like this. And I knew from that moment that I couldn't wait to have Jen on the podcast here to introduce you to her and to introduce you to breath work, because I just see now, I'm like, oh my goodness, I really kind of wish I knew about this sooner, because I just see the impact that it has, right, on our productivity, our focus, our success, our results, ultimately helping us avoid burnout right in the process. So Jen, welcome. I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself, your journey, who you are, and more about, this somatic breathwork that you do, so we can then uncover how this really helps the leaders that you work with.
Yeah, thank you, Alex, for having me on. It's such a pleasure to be here. And we've been in the transformation leadership space for a little while now. And I'm just so grateful to have gotten to know you through that and have you as a mentor and now be coaching alongside you. And it's just been such a beautiful, beautiful experience. And a short version of how I got into breathwork is I started out as a holistic health coach 10 years ago and really got into that space when I was struggling with digestive issues. And at the time, I was working in pharmaceutical sales, and the conventional medicine model is what I knew, is what I trusted. I didn't know really there were other ways and other alternatives. And when I finally decided to get help and support in the gut stuff that was also kind of creating other symptoms, which I didn't know were all related, but things like anxiety and skin issues and hormone imbalances. And I found myself literally in my 20s seeing like multiple doctors, being prescribed multiple medications, undergoing a variety of tests. And I'm like, what is going on? And I thought I was healthy. And and so something was, so there was a solution out there, and I didn't find it in the conventional medicine model. And it wasn't until I hit what felt like a dead end and got to go down a different path and look at different solutions, and that really opened my mind to new ways of doing things. And so it led me down the path of holistic wellness, integrative medicine, functional medicine, really addressing root cause rather than putting a Band-Aid on a symptom. And that was a whole new concept for me, and it made a lot of sense. And cleaning up my diet made a lot of sense to me, and I didn't know really anything about nutrition. So that's where I started, and I loved everything I was learning so much that I left pharma. I went back to school to study integrative nutrition and started a new path, a new career. And through that journey over time, in my own healing journey, and also working with my clients that were dealing with gut issues, I started to realize there were other components that got to be addressed. It wasn't just nutrition and supplements, which are absolutely important, but there was a deeper layer. There were several deeper layers. There was the stress component. There was the emotional component. There were the thoughts that are running in the background and that we may not even be aware of. How are we talking to ourselves? And what are the limiting beliefs that are coming up? Do we do we believe that we're worthy of like great health and all the things that we consciously say we want? But so all of that whole process is what led me to breath work. And I often say breath work found me. I was not consciously looking for it. I was looking for a solution. And that's when breathwork showed up in my world. And like you, I had no clue like how powerful breathwork could be. I knew a little bit about like, a couple different breathing techniques like box breath and things like that. And I even remember many years ago going to see this like holistic wellness doctor on a vacation when I was on a vacation, and we just happened to drive by this building. We were like, let's go in and see what it's all about. And we go in, and the doctor had availability to like work with us. And I remember him saying, I was like laying on his table, and he was doing a bunch of different relaxation techniques with me and really focusing on my breath. And I remember him saying, if you just change how you breathe, if you just learn how to breathe, you could heal so much. And I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, really? Yeah, I'm not buying that. And years later, here I am sharing the same message with people. If we just learn how to breathe, we could heal so much in so many areas of our life, especially our health, but mind, body, spirit. And yeah, the power of our breath is remarkable, not just from how we breathe on a day-to-day, which is very important, but also going into these deeper breathwork experiences, which are, the closest thing I can compare it to is meditation, but it's so much different. It really takes you to in my experience, takes you to a much deeper level.
Well, and, as you were saying there about like how you breathe differently, or sorry, I'm going to repeat that, but like in terms of like, just if you do breathe differently, I remember when I was having my panic attacks, like my anxiety attacks. And of course, everyone says, well, you just got to breathe, right? Like you'll hear that. I mean, I'm thinking even delivery and birth, I was like, well, you just got to breathe through it. But I remember this moment when I was sitting in my car and, doing the box breathing, but I didn't find it working. Yeah. I actually found it was increasing my heart rate, which was doing the opposite. Yeah. But now what I'm hearing you say is like, it resonates, because when I experienced your breath work, as you mentioned earlier, it goes deeper. And I feel that we're not taught to breathe, right? I mean, I'm on this podcast talking about our mind and the power of our mind, our thoughts and our beliefs. And, you talked about the gut, right? We've mentioned multiple times in the podcast, like the mind gut connection. And Michael Strassner, right? A great mentor of ours, really talked about how transformation is an inside job. And that's what came to when you said that, right? When we look at the insides of our body and our transformation, yes, there's our thoughts and there's the brain piece, there's the gut piece, but there's also everything in between. And, because of my anxiety and the attacks that I had in those panic attacks, like it was almost, it had me panic even further, I guess, because I kept feeling like it's not working. Like you're told to breathe. Yes, I get the box breathing, but I was never really actually taught. Like it was more about a telling, like, okay, yeah, you hear people say this, but understanding and being walked through, actually to go through that process, I find you can now get deeper. And that's what I experienced in your workshop, Jen, was like taking this to a whole other level where I did get that whole tingling. I'm like, oh my goodness. But it was being guided in that breathing. And I would say for myself, that was what was missing. And I know, a lot of listeners out there, like you lead busy lives. You probably have some moments that you're experiencing anxiety, right? That's why you're here to understand a little bit more about the brain and what's going on. And Jen, I know that I reached out to you a few weeks ago and I was explaining to him, like, I find myself in these moments where I'm like vibrating, right? Like, because I've got excitement, something great just happened, but I find I have this like energy. And I was like, how do I get grounded? Because I notice when I get in those moments, and it could be these moments of stress, it could be moments of excitement, but you can just feel it's like your body is buzzing. And then you're supposed to sit down and focus and get back to work. It's like there's a disconnect. So I remember reaching out to you, like, okay, Jen, like I immediately thought of you, like, what is a process or how do you get grounded to then be able to shift? Because it's possible when you're like literally high vibration, whether it is stress, anxiety, nervousness, excitement, to get regrounded. And so I'm was curious, like in your experience, like how do you support clients in doing that? And where have you seen even breathwork for you support you in those moments?
Oh my gosh, this is so good. Yeah, and it's interesting because I love how you grouped excitement, anxiety in kind of the same bucket because it's the same energy. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same energy. It's just we perceive it differently. So excitement may feel really good. Fear, anxiety, nervousness may not feel so good, but ultimately it's the same energy in the body. And so the first thing that I found very helpful for me and that I also offer to my clients is let yourself feel it.
Mm.
Let yourself feel it because anything uncomfortable, we tend to resist. Like we don't want to feel it. We want to push it away and bury it and suppress it and repress it and not deal with it. And when we do that, the emotion can't process, it can't be released. So, first and foremost, let yourself feel it. Because most emotions, if you allow them to be felt and experienced, they will process within 90 seconds.
Wow. 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 So, I mean, we've said this before on the podcast, what you resist persists. So if you're trying to resist the emotion, it's taking so much longer to process because you're resisting that versus, wow, if you just surrendered to it and let
Mhm.
it process. Wow, 90
Yeah.
seconds.
And easier said than done sometimes. Right. And for me, because anxiety has been an experience of mine over the years, to the point where I've been on medications in the past. And I'm not now, which I'm thankful for. And it supported me at one time. But when anxiety does come on, because there are still times where I will feel anxiety come on. Sometimes I know why, sometimes I don't. But one thing that if it feels really strong, again, I'll stop and I'll let myself feel it and I'll talk to it. I
Mm,
find that talking to it is really helpful because instead of like seeing it as an enemy, again, shifting the perspective. What if it's a messenger? What if it wants to tell you something? And so maybe it's an ally. And so I'll ask it. I'll say, I see you. I hear you. Like, I see you. What do you want to tell me? Like, what's the message? What are you trying to get across? And oftentimes, um, I'll get the message. I'll feel it intuitively of, either it's a decision I get to make, something I get to say, a conversation I get to have. And then once that is like felt and known, it just dissolves, which is
mm,
really, really powerful. And so just bringing awareness to it, letting it be felt, giving it space. Like, you may even think of it, I've done this before, as seeing it as my little girl. Like she just wants attention. Like she's trying to get your attention and she wants to be seen and heard and loved. And so, there have been times when I create that space and it goes away.
mm,
And then other times I will use breathing techniques as well. Like I think it's a lot more like natural for me now to when I do start feeling that sensation to just like instantly tune into my breath and start to regulate. Because once we start to regulate the breath, then that supports the regulation of the nervous system. So it can start to dissipate any feelings of anxiety and increased heart rate and overwhelm, things like that, by bringing the breath down a little bit, like slowing it down.
So that's where the power of that slow down piece, not necessarily having to follow like the 4 4 4 or whatever. And I think that's what I noticed for myself. It was like I was trying to force something, right?
Mhm.
Versus, really being connected with myself and tapping into, okay, what does that look like? And how do I'm just really focusing on just slowing it down.
Exactly. And yeah, like being gentle, giving yourself grace and compassion, because when we do try to force it, it makes it that much harder. I mean, already if you're feeling anxious and overwhelmed and you find that your breath is really fast and maybe it feels a little constricted too, it's going to feel extra hard to slow it down, harder than normal. And so if you can just do a little bit at a time, and what I find to be like the most effective is because I know you mentioned box breath, which is awesome because ultimately that's slowing the breath down. It's reducing your number of breaths per minute. But if you can even just extend your exhalations, make your
Mhm.
exhalations like double the length of your inhalation, because here's why that is so powerful. When we inhale, we stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. So that's your fight or flight response. When we exhale, we stimulate the parasympathetic. That's your rest, relax, digest,
Mm.
restore, heal. So the longer you can make your exhalations, the quicker you can get in that parasympathetic state. So depending on the state that you're in, that change of breath may look like an inhale for 2, exhale for 4. It could be inhale for 4, exhale for 8, and like breathing really slowly out the mouth. One technique I offer my clients that tends to work like just like that is what I call straw breath. So you take a breath in through the nose.
Mm.
It doesn't need to be a deep, forceful breath, just a normal breath in through the nose, and then exhale as slowly as you can through the mouth, like you're breathing out through a straw. And you do that for 2 to 3 minutes, you're going to be feeling a lot better. I've gotten people out of panic attacks simply
Wow.
through breath.
Wow. See, and like I said, like had I known all of this, the breathing probably would have helped me through the panic attacks and anxiety attacks, right? Now I know. Like, I mean, and I do remember realizing the 4 4 4 wasn't working. And so I tried like 4 5 6 7, which
Yeah.
explains because what you're saying is the 7 was like the breathe out, which was the calming piece. So now I understand why that works. So I
Why? Yeah.
appreciate you explaining what's going on, right? In our bodies, because it's so important. I always believe, right, with understanding what's going on with neuroscience and with our bodies, like the science behind it, so we can work with our bodies, right, to really support us. So I'm really curious, Jen. Like, I mean, I've got to experience this. I see this so powerful in understanding breath work. Why would you say that this is something that's would be, for the leaders out there that are listening to incorporate breath work into the day to day, and even what does that look like, and maybe even define a little bit more what breath work is, because I feel like it is breathing, but it is so much more than breathing.
Yeah. So the type of breath work I teach is called soma breath. And so this style of breath work is a unique system of breathing, music, sometimes movement, and guided meditation and visualization. So it's combining a number of different tools into one practice. And a typical breathwork session, like a daily, if you were to do it daily, 10 to 20 minutes could be amazing. But if you were to go to a breathwork class, it may be an hour long. And that's going to be a much deeper experience where you may find that you release a lot of emotional baggage, or like even process trauma, or come out feeling like super clear and blissful. Like there's so many different experiences you could have, but those longer breathwork experiences really do um, create an expanded state of consciousness.
Mm.
Breathwork has been compared to psychedelic medicines. So it creates this expanded state of consciousness, this altered state of consciousness where deep healing can occur, and even like really incredible insights and moments of clarity and downloads and connection to God and the universe. And it can be a very incredible spiritual experience. But from a entrepreneur leadership standpoint, breathwork is a really powerful tool to bring into your day to day, because it's going to help you function better. Just overall, you're going to function better. Your performance is going to be better. So, starting your day with breathwork, some of you may already have like a morning ritual or a self-care routine that you do in the morning that really gets you started off in an energized, focused way. And breathwork can support you in that too. So we know with breathwork, some of the benefits that it has on the brain are like peak performance and productivity and focus and concentration, mental clarity, also creativity. So as an entrepreneur, like we want to tap into that creative side, right? And when we are in our analytical minds all the time, we tend to shut off creativity. Creativity is what happens when we kind of get out of the head, into the heart, into the body, and tap into our intuition, our flow, our creative side. It's more of the feminine. And breath work can really get you into that state pretty quickly. So a lot of people find that they have a lot of creative insights and come out with a lot of ideas after a breathwork session that they want to implement into their business. I've had that happen so many times, whether I do a breathwork session and I come out, I'm like, I know another breathwork session I want to create for my audience, or I want to create this program or whatever it may be. I'll get a lot of like intuitive hits, and that's super, super powerful. There's different types of breathing techniques you can use throughout the day. So there's breathing techniques that are energizing. So if during the day, maybe you have that mid-afternoon slump and you tend to go for a cup of coffee, well, there's some breathing techniques you could do for 3 to 5 minutes that can really boost your energy. There's other breathing techniques that are very calming and grounding, can be great for sleep. So, I mean, it's all connected, right? Like you want to get a good night's sleep so you feel rested and energized and productive the next day. And so ending the day with breath work to help you wind down, clear the mind, get some restful sleep and restore so you're ready for the next day is also really supportive. But I'd say from the business standpoint, the focus, the concentration, the productivity, and the creativity are really, really big pieces.
Well, something that, I often share, like, I can always get great ideas, in the shower, or just like the
Exactly.
green energy, right? Going outside and being in nature can always support. So what hit me was, in those moments where you feeling like you've got this block, I don't know how many times I get the question of, I'm sitting down to work on XYZ, and then I've hit a block, like because it feels forced, right? So this is like a beautiful gift of like finding yourself in those moments of like, I'm stuck, which we know is a bit of a story. It's just shifting the energy and entering in some sort of breath work, which can tap into that creative state and that intuitive state, which is so beautiful, because having something like that, I think that's always what people want, right? You want that tool in your back pocket that when you're in that moment, you know exactly what to go and access to be able to support you in that. Now, Jen, I know that you got your YouTube page and you have places where the audience could go and learn more about you and get access to your breathwork. Do you want to share a little bit about where they can go there to be able to incorporate more of this into their day?
Yeah, absolutely. So my YouTube channel is the best place. I've got a number of guided breathwork meditations on there that you can try out, along with like an intro video that'll show you how to do the technique. So that's a great place to go. My website has a bunch of resources. There's a variety of online courses, and then one-on-one coaching options as well. Specifically for anxiety, I've got an anxiety course that brings in breath work, and then there's some other courses in there too, where breath work is the foundation. In addition to that, I mean, I'm on Instagram. You're not going to find any breathwork sessions on there because it's not a platform that's designed for that really. So I'd say YouTube is the best.
For you, what do you think the biggest difference is made for you with having now, as you said, like the breath work found you, and why you are such an advocate for integrating breath work into your, your daily activities?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I, I'm going to answer it with feedback that I've received.
Mm.
And you've told me this multiple times. I've heard it from other people. Jen, you have such a grounding energy. I'm like, only recently have I been told that. So I attribute breathwork to that because, like I said, I spent years with anxiety where I was on medication for it. And so um, having a tool that is literally within me. I don't need to go out somewhere and get it. I can literally harness the power of my breath to regulate my nervous system and regulate my state is so, so powerful. And so for me, it's helped a lot with just how I deal with stress and minimizing the feeling of anxiety in my life, just becoming more resilient, I think is the biggest thing.
Mm. That's powerful because I mean, I know even for me around my burnout, it was like, I just want my resilience back. I just want my confidence back. And what you're saying is just integrating that into the daily practice of having that. And yes, I know that's something I would share with you. Like your energy is so grounding. And whenever anyone comes to me who is feeling that, whether it is excitement or just some sort of energy around something, it's like, yeah, go see Jen because it's just that gift of the groundedness, which is so powerful. Again, something I did not learn until like, really only the last couple of years, to the power of being grounded that can support you with an anxiety, with depression, and supporting you in showing up as your best self, right? When we're looking at being unleashed and unstoppable, it's really being that operating by your best self, accessing, the best part of your brain, and just, being that leader in all areas of your life that people look up to and just are, attracted. That's why I see for you, Jen, it's just a magnet, right? Of attraction because of your beingness, which is so powerful, important in leadership.
Thank you for that.
I'm really curious for, looking at the holistic work that you've done and now with the breath work, because there is a lot of like internal work with, your nervous system and, with stress. What are some of the benefits with, let's say, I mean, the energy, weight loss, your overall body health?
Yeah. Everything, literally everything. So if you think about it, your breath goes in a rhythm, right? So you inhale, you exhale, you inhale, you exhale. It's a rhythm. And for most of us, our breath has been hijacked by stress because we live in a very busy, fast-paced, go, go, go world. And when that happens, so your nervous system's dysregulated, you're operating from fight or flight, it affects how you're breathing. So what that may look like with a dysregulated breath is breathing really fast, breathing shallow, breathing through your mouth, and in an incoherent rhythm. So it may be like a fast inhale, slow exhale, slow inhale, fast exhale, or holding your breath. Like that's a big thing, is unconsciously holding your breath. And that's a stress response. And there's actually a term now, believe it or not, called email apnea.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you think of sleep apnea, someone stops breathing during their sleep. Email apnea, it's when you're online, you're on email or social media or whatever, and you're holding your breath. You stop breathing. And for many of us, like we don't even know we're doing it. It's like an unconscious thing, but it is a stress response. And so when we start to tune into our breath and really optimize our habitual daily breath, which ideally is in and out through the nose, it's slower. So under 10 breaths per minute, which may be like a really big stretch for some people. The ideal breath is 5.5 breaths per minute, which if you time yourself on that, it's gonna feel like super, super slow. And we actually have studies that show in mammals, breath rate, so number of breaths per minute, is directly linked to longevity. So,
Wow.
for example, on one end of the spectrum is a mouse or a rat, and they breathe about 200 breaths per minute.
Wow.
Yeah, 200 breaths per minute and live an average of 2 years. Okay. On the other end of the spectrum is a whale. They breathe about 4 to 6 breaths per minute and live an average of 100 years. So the fewer breaths per minute, the longer your lifespan. So most of us are breathing too fast. And so if we can slow our breath down and breathe in a more coherent, consistent rhythm, then that's going to optimize our nervous system. It's going to regulate our nervous system. And when that happens, we feel less stress, less anxiety. It supports with depression. And even from a physical health standpoint, as I mentioned, the breath functions in a rhythm. Think of all the other functions in your body that function in a rhythm: your heart rate, your blood pressure, your circadian rhythms, your hormones, your digestion, right? So once we optimize our breath, so it's a nice, slow, consistent rhythm, it's going to improve your digestion, your hormones,
Wow.
your heart rate, your blood pressure, even your metabolism. We breathe
Wow.
out, the way we lose most fat is through breath. We exhale it.
I don't know how many listeners right now are their minds are blown, but I mean, my mind is blown right now. Like, I mean, I'm like all for breathwork. This is exciting. And now you've just got me like, okay, now I really I want to integrate this more and more in my day. So, wow, that's fascinating. I mean, I understood. I mean, when we look at just things we hold on to, right?
Mhm.
And with our brain, and our brain wants to keep us safe. So a lot of times we're having things of the past, and we, the automated, our automated negative thought system, and all those things. But you just sort of, what excites me is just looking at obviously the neural work that Carol and myself do, tied in with this
Mhm.
breath work, just the power of being able to really truly release and allow things to process it, as you were saying earlier, and just really run through the body, and to work with that, with, okay, this is what's coming up for me in my brain. And now I can work with and through the body to release what's going on, because it's not serving me, right? We know our negative thoughts don't serve us, right? Our limiting beliefs, they don't serve us. And now I'm being told to even like work with us to go through the body to support us in what we're creating with our vision and our future and our results,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I'd love to go into that a little more around the thoughts and emotions, because um, breath work is powerful at releasing toxic emotions, trapped emotions, even trauma. And how that happens is, well, one, emotions, if not fully processed, get stored in the body. And
Mm,
so if they're not dealt with over time, they can lead to imbalances and dis-ease. And so how we process emotions is through the body, right? So that's why as we breathe and we go into these deeper breathwork experiences, one, we're literally like moving energy in the body. Emotions are energy in motion. And so we're literally moving energy in the body through our breath. And as we drop in to a deeper experience through breath work, it starts to turn down the volume on the default mode network, which you're probably familiar with. That part of our mind that is like just alert and analytical, and all the patterns and programs that are running, that it's kind of how we show up most days. It starts to turn down that, and it allows us and allows our body to process old memories, past experiences, without necessarily like having to relive them.
mm,
That makes sense. So we may not even have a memory tied to it as we're releasing it, but we may notice in a breathwork experience that we're crying and we don't know why, or we're laughing, or we like have this urge to let out a noise, or we yawn, or our bodies shake. Those are all ways of like processing and releasing emotions and trauma. And that's the beautiful thing, is that through breath work, we can do that a little bit easier without necessarily needing a memory tied to it. But the body just kind of takes over and does the job.
wow. That is, I mean, that's fascinating. That's fascinating that the body can do that because yeah, I mean, some reliving some memories from the past it's just not enjoyable. And so knowing that you can still process that and release that with actually going there is is it's really nice to know, right? That you don't
Right.
need to go to
Yeah.
that point, right? And just the combination of this with tying in like your vision, what you want to create, and be able to process and let go of what no longer serves you, of what doesn't
Mhm.
serve the vision you're creating and what you're out there doing in the world, as a leader. And so I always get excited when I learn just other modalities that just in combination with the neuro work that just, really amplifies, right? The result in what you can create.
Yeah.
And the breath work, I mean, when you can get to that relaxation part is so enjoyable. So Jen, I know that you offered to do a little bit of breath work for our listener today. So
Mhm.
if you are driving, I would recommend either pulling over or just listen, maybe not participate. So yeah, do you want to tell us a little bit about like the best way to go about it and then walk us through that breathwork experience?
Yeah, perfect. So we're going to do a session today. It's a little mini session. So it's going to give you a taste of what a full session would be like. We're going to do one round of breath work. And so what that looks like is it's going to start out with rhythmic breathing. And you're going to be breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And this particular piece of music that we're going to use, it is a little bit faster breathing. So it's going to start out in two, out two. And then at the very end, it's going to get faster. In, out. And after the rhythmic breathing, you're going to hear guidance to take a big breath fully in. And you'll breathe fully in through your nose and then exhale fully out through your mouth. And you're going to exhale all the air and hold your breath. So we do intentional breath holds in this because they have a lot of health benefit, including anti-aging properties, and also it's a way that we can access the subconscious mind and start to reprogram the brain. So you're going to exhale all there and hold your breath for as long as you can. This is a longer breath hold. So if you really need to take a breath during that, just take a little sip in and out. It's a way we can kind of like hack the system, if you will, and you still get the benefits. So if you get a real big urge to breathe in and out and go back into the breath hold, do that as many times as you need to. And then I'll be inviting you to take a breath fully in. Breathe in through the nose, hold your breath. And on that inhale breath hold, we're going to contract our pelvic floor muscles. And as we're squeezing the pelvic floor muscles, those muscles you would use to hold in your urine, and holding your breath in, I want you to imagine moving energy from your root chakra, that pelvic floor region, up the spine into the brain. And what we're doing here is we're harnessing creative energy and we're sending it up into the brain. Okay, so this is where sometimes people will get insights, downloads, moments of clarity, inspiration, intuitive hits. And some people feel really excited and energized during this experience. We're stimulating feel-good neurotransmitters, serotonin and dopamine. And some people will see visions and colors and lights and things of that nature. So just enjoy the experience. But it's those three elements, the rhythmic breathing and then the two breath holds, and I'll be guiding you through it all. Now, there are a couple of contraindications with the breath hold. So if you're pregnant, if you have cancer, epilepsy, or heart condition like arrhythmia or pacemaker, do not do the breath holds. Just continue with the rhythmic breathing. Otherwise, have fun with it because the magic is really like the breath holds are pretty magical. So have fun and experiment. And yeah, let's do it. So make sure you're in a comfortable seated position or lying down. Again, like Alex said, not driving, and that you're in like a secure seat if you are sitting up. And you can go ahead and close your eyes and begin to slow your breath and enjoy the ride.
Wow.
I'm back.
Wow. What a beautiful gift, Jen.
Hmm.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I'm really calm right now. This is beautiful. And you said something earlier before we even started, and I already see where I love to integrate this for myself and for Carol and I's clients as well. Is this is a beautiful where we have our brain primes that would follow this, right? Because now you've opened the mind up, you've tapped into the subconscious. This is a perfect time to now and go and listen to your brain primes and really tap into your visions and what you're creating and get grounded for the day. Like it's just, yeah, so beautiful.
Yeah, this would integrate so well into the neurocoaching
So
that you all
beautiful.
do. Yeah, for sure.
So, Jen, before we wrap up here, I know you shared a little bit, like, and we'll definitely have the link to your YouTube and to your website in the show notes. I also know that you have some of your breath work on some apps out
Mm,
there. Do you want to share also where else the audience could also
yeah.
find some of your work?
Thank you for that. Yes. So a couple other places. There's an app called it's actually, they changed the name. It's The Source. It was called the Breath Source. So I would look up both names in the App Store, but it's a breathwork specific app. So the Breath Source, and I've got a bunch of breathwork sessions on there along with other breath masters. So you can experience a variety of different styles of breathwork and learn from other teachers and guides and find who you really resonate with and get it all in one app. And then I also have some sessions on brain tap. So if you have the brain tap headset, which is a super cool device because it uses different therapies, light therapy, sound frequencies to shift your brainwave states. Some of my breathwork sessions are on there too. So you can find my stuff there if you have their headset.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
exciting. So, lots of places where you can tap into and really start to explore the breath work. And what's next for you, Jen? Where are you what are you up to? What are you creating? And with breath work and for your audience and your clients, where you're taking this with what you're creating.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great question. So in my personal life, I'm figuring out where I want to live. So currently, as of this recording, so I my home is in Dallas, but I'm currently in Boulder and really loving it. So who knows? Maybe there's a future here. In my business, I've been focusing on creating some different online courses. So more of that to come, but I've got several already. And I recently launched a membership as well that gives members access to live online breathwork classes, as well as a library of breathwork sessions that you can do on your own time. So that is available. And then I have my one-on-one coaching as well. So a 3 to 6 month program that supports people. So many of my clients, probably 100% of my clients, one of the chief complaints is anxiety, and it's
Mm,
affecting one, if not many areas of their life, whether it's, career, relationships, health, and they're wanting to get that under control. And so they come really knowing that breathwork is going to be the foundation. We're also going to use a lot of the leadership and transformation tools that you and I have learned through our training there to really get to what's underneath it. What are the patterns, the programs that we learned early in childhood, and the stories that we're telling ourselves that have created this experience, and how do we rewrite that? How do we shift that? And then we use breath work in that method too.
beautiful. So links to your membership we'll also have that in the show notes. So
Yeah.
yeah, my invitation, listener, is to go and check out some of Jen's resources, jump into her membership, and really my invitation is just really look at integrating breath work into your day to day, whether it's, when you're at work in those moments, as you said, Jen, earlier, like to support you in, that sort of afternoon slump, or just to get grounded, really, truly get grounded. In fact, Jen, some feedback that I've received lately as well is that I am showing up more grounded. And I would say it's thanks to beginning to integrate a lot more of this, right? It's not, meditation is very powerful. And when you can tie in the breath work with that meditation, with that time, I mean, it's almost like it's like a mini vacation, like in the day, especially if you're like me and you've got two little ones running around, right? It's just that nice little time and space for yourself to get grounded, really set yourself up for success, be unleashed and unstoppable. And of course, avoiding this burnout in the process while you're up to big things. So Jen, it's been such a pleasure having you here and just, gifting the audience this beautiful breathwork experience to get started with. And yeah, listener, head over to the show notes. Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast. See you again next Thursday. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.